Hey guys, this episode of the Ride Life podcast is brought to you by nightowlrides.com. If you want premium motorcycle content, go follow his YouTube page at Night Owl Rides, his Instagram at Night Owl Rides, and head over to nightowlrides.com and get yourself some premium merch, t-shirts, shirts, hats, all kinds of goodies on there. Check them out, nightowlrides.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Ride Life podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Got my host, Jim, down in Rhode Island. And we have another guest tonight. So we're in for a good show tonight. Been looking forward to this. It's another podcaster, so we get to see what he's up to and see what's going on in the podcast world with him. What's up with you, Jim?
Grinding away, getting ready, man. It's just counting down the days to spring. We got a lot of that frozen shit out there right now, but yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. So I don't know. You want to introduce him? We'll bring him in. Let's not keep you people waiting.
All right, yeah. We're going to bring in Marcus from the Daily Biker podcast. I almost had a brain fart there. Holy shit.
It happens. All right, I'm bringing him in.
All right, bring him on in. Oh, jeez. What's up, Marcus?
How are y'all?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you can hear me good.
Perfect. So what's happening out there in Tennessee tonight?
It's warming up.
Yeah. Not up here.
No, I wish we could say that.
It was about 51 degrees here today.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Take that. Still got the snow on the ground?
In very minor spots where it's really shady and stuff like that is the only place you're going to see it.
Nice. All right. All right. So, all right, everybody. We got Marcus from the Daily Biker podcast in the house tonight. So we're going to talk podcast stuff, some motorcycle stuff, and everything in between, right, Jim? Come on. You did your notes.
Listen, we got notes. I really want to know kind of what Marcus's background is, like how he got started riding, and then how you got into the podcasting thing.
So I wasn't raised around motorcycles. Um, I was raised in a large neighborhood or subdivision where there was a lot of motorcycles, but me personally and my family, there wasn't motorcycles. So it wasn't necessarily anything that was taboo, but I was really, really rough on bicycles. So I was always told I would kill myself if I got a motorcycle. And I couldn't have one until I moved out of my parents' house. So it was kind of a rebellion. As soon as I moved out of my parents' house, I bought my first motorcycle. I've been in love with it since a child. You know, for me, I'm 40 years old, so watching shows like Chips and stuff like that, motorcycles has always just kind of been inherently there for me. And then, I grew up in the era of Pastrana and Mark McGrath and all that stuff. It was just kind of a natural transition for a lot of people at my age to know those things and love those things. Coming into the motorcycle world as someone that works at a dealership and stuff like that, I never sought out to do that. I was actually unemployed, and I bet $100 versus a job on a pool game against the general manager of a dealership. Uh, Needless to say, I'm halfway decent at playing pool. So started working in dealerships, and I mean that was 20 something years ago.
Wow.
And I've been in and I've left and I've came back and I've left and now I'm back again. So that's how I got into the dealership thing. I mean, once you get in it, it's in your blood. It's hard to let it go. But with the podcast, I mean, me and my friends already sit around and talk about motorcycles. I said, hey, why not record this and let everybody else listen to it?
All right. See,
So,
you sound just like Jim. He worked in the dealerships. His parents were afraid for him to get on a motorcycle, and
Yeah,
geez.
same exact story. Same
Yeah,
story. I worked at a Honda dealership, but
I
I would.
spent 4 years at a Honda
Yeah,
dealership.
I liked it. I was a service writer, and but I wanted to kind of move up, even though I was young. The service manager had left, and they weren't gonna give me the service manager job, so I kind of started looking for other things.
Yeah, for me, I left due to financial reasons. Uh, because realistically, like you said, wanting to move up as a young kid, depending on where you're at in a dealership, it's not really a money making job. What I tell everybody is when you're working at a dealership, you're either in a position where you can make some money or you're financially stable with the money that you make. The only reason I say that is because, just like up there, if you think about someone that sells motorcycles, you're not going to sell motorcycles 12 months of the year. It just doesn't happen.
No.
So, uh, you have to kind of work to get in those positions. But I actually started out doing internet sales and then was helping with marketing and doing service and parts at a Honda dealership actually here in Chattanooga for a while.
Right. Nice. So, have you always been in Tennessee? Is that where you were born and everything?
Born and raised.
Really?
My family has been in the Chattanooga area for 250 years.
Holy jeez. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I don't carry any weight around here, but depending on where I go in the area, if they hear my last name, they're like, "Oh."
oh,
And it's just because there's a lot of family and a lot of rich history.
nice. That's pretty cool though. You go everywhere you go, someone might know you. You know, it's like a small town thing.
It is very much a small town. I mean, Chattanooga's fairly well known, but even then in the Chattanooga metropolitan area, there's like 300,000 people. So it's not, at the end of the day, it's not a huge city.
Yep. Yep. It's kind of similar to where I live now. You know, everywhere I go, you know someone because everybody knows everybody
Yeah.
in this little town.
Yeah.
It's not bad unless you're doing something bad.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Are you trying? Anyways. So what was that first bike you bought?
My very first motorcycle, like going out and actually getting a bike, was a 2005 Suzuki Katana 600.
Ooh, can of tuna.
Yeah, the old can
Yeah,
of tuna.
I loved it too, man. I actually miss it. It was one of those bikes that at the end of the day, when you write down the motorcycles through history, you couldn't kill it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There wasn't a lot you could do to it.
Yep. That's like all my friends have started off on crotch rockets. I feel like I'm the only
Yeah.
one that just jumped right into the Harley Davidson world. You know, I raced dirt bikes and then I just jumped right into a Harley.
Yeah, I didn't have a Harley for about the first 8 years of me riding.
Yep.
And then when I got a Harley, um, the reason I got a Harley was I had it's called a 599 or a Honda Hornet. It's a CBR 600 that has no plastics on it, but it's made from the factory that way. And I had death wobble going down the interstate, and I thought I was going to kill myself. And I saved it, and I parked it. And 3 days later, I traded it for a Softail Deluxe.
Yeah. All right. That's one thing. As I listen to your podcast, I feel like I learn motorcycles I never even heard of before. You were talking about some bike the other day. I was listening. I was like, I never even heard of that bike before. Or the
Man, between Daniel and I, our
yeah,
friends, we get so much harassment, just like out to eat or something, and we'll start talking about a bike or something in particular. And you would think it would be our wives that would do it, but they've gotten so used to it. It's other friends that'll look at us and joke, "Could you just shut up for a second? We have no idea what you're talking about."
what's the company that you said you and Daniel were talking about buying? Should buy Ducati, or Ducati should buy this company, an Italian company. What was that?
So Ducati should buy Envy Agusta.
Yeah, that's all right. I think I've heard of them, but yeah, okay, yep. But then you
Yeah,
said,
it's Envy Agusta is an Italian brand. That is a very limited. I mean, I've probably seen three of them in my entire life, and I mean, I go to MotoGP races and stuff like that. So
yeah,
to see one just out and about is not something you see every day, even here where we have people riding year round.
yep, yep. Like the Aprilia, I wanted a Aprilia Supermoto so bad. They were like the baddest looking
Yeah,
supermotos out there. But
yeah,
I ended up getting a DRZ 400 SM instead, just because it was
yeah.
more aftermarket parts and you know,
Yeah, the 400 SM, I mean, just the DRZ 400, and they've done the update now, but for the most part, the engine structure and everything is the same. it's such a reliable, solid working motorcycle that can't be killed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got just enough power to have fun, and it's reliable. And yep, yep.
Yeah, 40 horsepower will get you hurt. People don't think it will, but it'll get you hurt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Well, especially with
So
the weight of those things. But Brian, up near you, there was a Ducati dealer. They had Ducati and
Aprilia.
Aprilia, and I think they had a MV too. I think they had like a couple in there because I went in there once and they had like one or two on the floor.
Yeah, that's where I went and looked at the
Was it
Aprilia,
Seacoast Ducati? Seacoast?
something like that. I forget,
Yeah,
but I don't even know if they're still there.
I
yeah.
mean, it makes sense for a brand like that to carry MV. It's
Yeah,
very much a luxury brand. I mean, the way I would equate it is, everybody knows Lamborghini and Ferrari, but not everybody knows what Pagani is.
Yep.
So,
yeah, true, true. So that Softail Deluxe, that was your first Harley that you bought.
yep.
So what was it? What year was it?
It was a 2009 black with a gold and orange pinstripe on the whole bike. The it had, I'm assuming, lived in Florida at one point in time because it had some salt rubbings and stuff on the lower fork legs, but the chrome was all still good on it. White walls.
Yeah,
The bike was bone stock with the exception of the Willie G Skull collection. When I say the collection, everything that you could get, right down to axle covers, swing arm pivot bolts, everything was Willie G's Skull. And then we threw a set of Heritage handlebars on it and did the Jersey rake, had them rolled forward
yep,
with a set of 33-inch Samsons on it, and a 21-inch white wall front end on it.
yep.
And that was my baby. That was I told people now because there's so many people buying those and doing that thing. I'm like, man, I got rid of that in 2017. I mean, I was cholo with those bikes here in the South before it was a thing. So
Right. Yeah, my first bike was a Softail, and I had Samson exhaust on it. Like Samson exhaust was you had to have it back then.
yeah,
That was the exhaust
they're
type.
gone now, right?
They are.
No more Samson, man.
Yeah, makes sense. I haven't heard of them in a long time. So
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for a company like that because they weren't necessarily a huge company to compete with companies that maybe have a better marketing strategy,
did
like
they
Masonic.
did they offer more than exhaust?
No, exhaust was it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's
But they offered a lot more just fishtails. It was just that was the thing.
yeah,
Everybody wanted the fishtails.
yeah. I think I had the street sweepers. They called them.
Yeah.
So or the rip saws. I think I forget. There was a couple that we've had.
Did yours crack, Brian?
They might have, but back then I never noticed because I didn't do much um, maintenance on any of my bikes back then. I just rode them and put them away.
So this might not be the exhaust, but when I worked at that Honda dealership, for whatever reason, they sold those American Iron Horse and the Big Dogs,
Yep.
and Samson made exhaust for those, and like I can remember so many customers they put Samsons on there and they cracked. I it might have just been the bike, honestly, the way that everything
Was
mounted
it
up.
was it like the swept exhaust, the two pipe swept?
I remember like a dual like straight pipe.
Okay.
I
I
that was
know.
20 years ago, more than
Yeah,
that.
we had a chopper dealership here that sold a lot of big dogs and Iron Horse, a handful of Borghettes and stuff like that. And at that time, I was working at another Harley Davidson dealership, so we used to see those bikes come through quite a bit and stuff. And most of the people that had those had their ultra classic in the garage and stuff like that. That wasn't their only motorcycle. But we used to see people with the swept exhaust and they were braking and they were coming to us wanting to know, hey, what exhaust can I get? I don't know what brand that swept exhaust was, but that just made me
Yeah.
think about
I
that.
remember they for whatever reason the Samsons were really popular, but they were on those bikes, but they were it was definitely two like straight pipes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what mine was. It was just two straights. There's no cat, no baffling,
Nope.
nothing.
I think
That's
And
those
you
bike
get,
I think those bikes were so poorly made though. I think that had something to do with it. I don't think anything was ever where it should be.
I mean, if anyone says they weren't poorly made, then tell me why you could buy a $100,000 motorcycle for $5,000 right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
a Bourget for.
Yeah.
Jeez. So, how long you been working at the White Lightning?
So I tell everybody I've been on payroll for a little over 4 years now, but I've been helping do stuff at White Lightning for about 6 or 7 years.
Uh,
Before I started at White Lightning, I was helping with a small law firm facilitate bike nights that the dealership sponsored. So I was the one that was going into the dealerships or going into the bars and stuff and getting everything set up for bike night and the one standing up there talking and hosting these bike nights and getting another crowd and taking the pictures and stuff. And then that slowly transitioned into me building a relationship with Sean, our general manager. And I wanted to kind of do a little bit of writing. So I was coming in, he was going, "Hey, go ride this motorcycle." I'd ride it for about 30 minutes to an hour and then just do a little blog post on it,
yeah,
and write something. And then one day he was like, "You want to be my marketing guy?" And I was like, "I didn't go to school for that." And he goes, "That's okay. The stuff that you need to learn, I can teach you. What I can't teach you is the passion and the knowledge that you have for the brand."
that's cool. So that's what you're in the marketing department then still.
I am the marketing
You
department.
are. Yeah.
I tell everybody I'm the marketing guy. Thankfully, we are, you hear the cliche all the time about a team or a family or something like that.
Yeah.
But 100% that's how it is. I rely on, not just the managers of other departments, but other employees to help facilitate, put events together, bring people to me and bring stuff to me. I mean, some of our events are events that wouldn't exist if it hadn't have been for an employee going, "Hey, this is the event we need to do." So, we work very hard at bringing everybody in. I just so happen to have that title of the person that controls the marketing.
Nice, nice. So the Smoky Mountain Bike Week, is that pretty close to where you guys are? Does that take place? Or
It's about an hour and a half north of us.
okay, have you been?
So I went before it was Smoky Mountain Bike Week. So Jeff Holt does the V-Twin Missionary Tour,
Yep.
and he's actually been going up there at the same time they now do the Smoky Mountain Bike Week. I don't want to say that they do it because of the V-Twin Tour, but the V-Twin Tour was already happening kind of in accordance of that weekend prior to them setting all this up. And I used to go for that.
Right. Yep. Yeah. We Jim and I are thinking about coming down there this year for that towards the fall. So
If you've never rode any of those roads, it's 100% worth it.
yeah. I've
Uh, the dealership is like, I mean, no joke, 15 minutes from the driving.
oh okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never ridden in Tennessee, and I don't think Jim has ever ridden in Tennessee. So we're looking forward to doing some riding in Tennessee this year, like we never have. So
Well, there's a big warning on that. You
uh,
might move south if you do.
I know. Trust me. I go down for Daytona every year, and I think, why am I driving back home? I just should just stay here.
Well, it's happened. It's happened to so many people when you drive down this way, like if you come down to Smoky Mountain Bike Week and you'll meet people and it's like, "Oh yeah, I see that guy or I know who that guy is or that guy's a big influencer." And it's like you end up finding out that all these people now live in Tennessee and you're like, What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we came here like once or twice to ride and we just decided to move here." I mean, Jeff Holt lives in Tennessee now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Jeff. I mean, he moved from Arizona or
Yeah.
California. I wouldn't think it gets any better than California, but and yeah, I remember
The roads, man, the
uh,
roads.
a couple years ago, I kept on hearing everybody's moving to Maryville, Tennessee. Then
Yep.
Jessup opened up Dream Rides, and there's all sorts of things happening in Tennessee now. So, I don't know, you guys.
Yeah, well, and on the opposite side of the state, that's where Boosted Brad is.
Oh
And a lot
shit,
of people don't realize that.
yeah, yeah. And then you got Club Style Tennessee. Is that your doings?
So Club Style Tennessee is not my doings. I had to give that up to the Nashville boys.
Okay.
They started that, they hate when I call them the Nashville boys because they're very quickly to go, "We're not from Nashville." And I'm like, well, it's just like if I was to speak to somebody and they're like, oh, I'm from Queens, I'd go, oh, so you're from New York.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's where you're from. Leave me alone. Uh, so I give it up to them, and they grew it. The guy that originally started it handed it off to a guy named Spike. Short Bus on Dubs is his Instagram handle, and he's just kind of blown it up and made it what it is. I was fortunate to get introduced to those guys because I made some friends with some other guys that grew up with him, and it was just, that connection happened.
Yeah.
Uh, and we just started pushing heavy in Chattanooga because there's so many of us at the dealership that are already kind of in that group,
Yeah.
and it's just grown immensely. I mean, we do our big club style event that we have at our dealership, and it's a single day, 4 hour event. But like that event has grown to, we had a little over 400 people last year. We'll probably have a little over 500 people this year. So
Oh,
it's
nice,
just
nice.
kept growing every year.
You guys have a weekly bike night during the summer or anything like that?
So usually from about March to October, there's usually about 3 or 4 bike nights going on in Chattanooga every single week.
Nice.
So you kind of have your pick of which one you want to go to. Outside of that, uh, there is a huge free concert series that they do in downtown Chattanooga. That's a 10-week concert series, and they do some exclusive motorcycle parking. And it's kind of right in the middle of everything, so it almost becomes a bike night too. A lot of people go down for the motorcycle stuff, and they never even leave the motorcycle parking area. That's just where they
Just
stop and hang out and talk to people and everything.
right on, right on. So, since you're in Tennessee, have you heard anything about the Tennessee, the music revival, motorcycles and revival thing?
So I've been for 4 times. I've been 4 times. I didn't go this past year, but the past 4 years before that went with the dealership
Yeah.
and represented the dealership. Had a booth set up and everything, and it's great, man. I tell people that have been to big rallies like Daytona, Panama, Sturgis, those types of things that it's not. Don't expect that because that's not this rally.
Yeah.
You will see a guy come through on $100,000 big wheel bagger. You do see that. Um, but this is the guys that don't really want a rally.
Yeah.
They're just going out. They're riding some of the most beautiful roads in the country throughout the day, coming back in the evening time, sitting around having a beer, going to a concert, and then going back to their camping area and sitting around a fire and drinking and hanging out with their buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I heard something happened this past year where
Yeah.
I,
They have a builder invitational show.
yeah, the
Uh,
build up.
and
So he puts it on.
yeah, from what I understand, one of the builders had. I'm just going to say something in the system because
Oh,
I've heard multiple things.
yeah.
Uh, but his driving was impaired, and he like tried to go around a golf cart or something, and I don't know if he hit the girl or he hit the golf cart and the golf cart hit the girl, but someone ended up getting hit and killed.
Oh,
The
shit.
thing was in the area, the spot that it happened at on the property. I was like, I don't even know how you go fast enough to even hurt somebody. I mean, it's so congested in that spot where they're talking about it happened. And I'm like, man, I've been through there 1,000 times. You can't hardly go more than 5 miles an hour through there. So, but apparently it's in the evening time and he romped on it and just shot through the crowd. So.
Jeez. Yeah, I heard something happen. I didn't know what was, and people were talking that might not happen again this year. They haven't heard anything about it, so I was just curious.
I think their website is active. I think they are currently selling tickets. I haven't dove into it just because, like I said, we're not going this year. I've got some other stuff
Yeah.
that we're focusing on with the dealership, anyways. But I mean, it's fun. It's a different, like I said, though, it's a different type of rally. It's a different type of rider for the guy that has only seen a motorcycle pre 1950 in a museum or in a shop on display.
Yeah.
You'll see him running around right and left. Guys just got out riding them like it's nothing.
That's cool.
It's just a bike for them.
I like that shit.
Yeah.
So
It's a different environment, but you'll have that same guy. You'll have a guy with a full-blown knucklehead chopper that was originally built back in like 1945. He found it in somebody's basement and restored it, and it's big badass chopper. And he's there with his FXR brother. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's all over the place. That's one of the big stops for Jeff Holt too on the V-twin tour.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. So what's your 2025 season look like? What events are you going to hit? Am I going to see you at any events where I could throw a sticker on your bike, or what's going on?
So we're going to be at Sturgis. We
Oh,
we have it fully confirmed.
all right.
I was supposed to go last year. Some stuff had came up. We had kind of an emergency situation where we weren't going to be able to go. But we've kind of gotten everything taken care of. Got a lot of stuff handled to where no matter what comes up, there's nothing that's going to stop us outside of us just saying, "Hey, we don't want to go." But
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at Sturgis. Otherwise, the only other trip that I'm taking is the first weekend in May, um, which is the same time as Panama. So I'm not going to be going to Panama this year. We're going to be going down to Road Atlanta for the bagger racing.
Oh, okay. Yep. Nice. Yeah, I'll be in Sturgis this year as well. So we're going
Yeah,
we're going the first week into the first weekend. So
yeah. So our plans is to leave Chattanooga the morning of the first and ride to Sioux Falls.
yeah.
So it's like 1,050 miles for us from here to Sioux Falls. And then ride the remaining 400, 500 miles into Sturgis. So we'll get there on the 2nd, and we're going to stay all the way through, I think, on the 8th,
Oh,
and
okay.
leave the morning of the 8th.
Right on. No. Well, maybe our paths will cross there, because that'll be my first time going to Sturgis for Bike Week. I've been out there before, but not on a bike. So I'm looking.
Well, the nice thing is there's these technologies called cell phones. We can always
Yeah.
communicate
Well,
that with each other.
I always say that, but I'm like, yeah, I'll meet up with you down in Daytona, and it's so crazy. I never meet up with anybody. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
I still want to come up y'all's way for the rally. I mean, that's one of those things where, I just recently had that conversation with somebody um, outside of the podcast. Just we were talking about stuff, and we were talking about Sturgis, and they're like, "Oh, that's one of the oldest rallies in the country." And I was like, "Actually, there's rallies that are older than Sturgis, and
yeah,
people don't realize it."
I know. Well,
So,
if you listen to like one of our last episodes, we have a segment. Does Jim know? And I asked him that
yeah,
question, and he knew that Laconia was the oldest rally. So
yeah. So I want to go to Laconia. I really want to go to Hollister. Hollister's just a 1 day thing though,
yeah,
and it's kind of on the other side of the country, so it's very, very difficult for that. But I've kind of the way that we've worked this out is, there's so much stuff around Sturgis that I've never seen that I
yep,
want to see. I love exploring. I love history. I love geography, those types of things. So using the Sturgis Rally as an opportunity for me to be able to go and sightsee. I want to do the same thing with Arizona Bike Week. I want to go to Arizona Bike Week because I
yep,
really want to see Monument Valley.
yep. Arizona Bike Week was fun, but yeah, you come up here to Laconia. There's plenty of lots of New England's full of history. You know that, but
Yeah.
go up.
Well, Chris keeps telling me I can crash at his place if I come to Laconia.
Oh, jeez. No, you're better off staying here.
There's tons of great riding too, and then the thing about New England is it's so small.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to, you could stay in Vermont, ride to Laconia, spend a few hours, ride into Maine, and then ride back to Vermont, and not feel like you went anywhere.
Yeah. And I've got a friend that lives in Burlington, actually.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah,
So Burlington's like a little bit further, but like from where Brian lives, it's only about an hour, and you're in Vermont. And
Yeah.
what are we, Brian? What are you? 45 minutes to Bentley's in Maine?
yep, yeah. 45
Yeah.
minutes. So
So I mean, it's nothing, and you're 30 minutes south of Laconia.
Yeah. I've been in upstate New York, but I've never been any further than that. So it's something I would definitely like to check out. The only thing that I'm going to have problems with is the communication. I mean, between me trying to understand y'all and y'all trying to understand me, I don't know how far I'm going to get.
come on. Well, you do know if you come up here and you stay at Chris's, you're gonna have to. He's gonna have ride on the back of your bike, because his bike has been at my house for almost a year now. It got kicked out of the garage. It's now sitting over in the side yard. He says he's going to come work on it on a Wednesday, because he doesn't work on Wednesdays. and he hasn't been over since. So his bike will not be running for Laconia. I can guarantee you. So
Those carbs still aren't clean.
yeah, so if you want a passenger, yeah, go stay with him. But if you want to do some riding, you stay here.
Yeah, I mean, I want to come check it out. It's, I've heard so many great things. We've got a guy that now lives in the Chattanooga area that's from Unica,
Yeah,
and he will just not shut up about riding up that way.
yeah. Well, Utica, yeah, up in upstate New York is nice too. And you can go to Laconia and watch the hill climb. I didn't know they had a hill climb in Sturgis too. Did you know that?
I didn't know they had a hill climb in Sturgis. They
Yeah,
do have a hill climb at Loretta Lynn's at the Tennessee Motorcycle Music Revival.
yeah.
But we go to another rally, another motorcycle rally that's for our community. I'll include all three of us in this. Uh, might not be as well and predominantly known, but we've talked about it on the podcast. So that's called March Moto Madness,
Okay.
and that is an ADV rally.
Oh, an adventure
And
route.
yeah, so it just happens. It's about an hour and 10 minutes to the property from the shop. But man, it is so fun. And they do like basically an obstacle course. They call it a trials course, but they have an obstacle course and a hill climb. And see these guys out there on like these big BMW GSs and Triumphs and Pan
Yeah.
Americas doing this stuff. And it's like, wow, it's
You,
insane to watch it happen.
you're not going to bring the XR out there?
I rode the XR up there last time, and I sat on the sidelines and watched.
Yeah.
Well, I say I sat on the sidelines and watched. The unfortunate part is the guy that runs and owns the rally, I know him personally, so when it came time for the hill climb, I had just sat down in a chair in a perfect spot at the bottom of the hill, and he looks at me and goes, "I need your help catching bikes." I was like, "Son of a gun."
Yep. That's how it goes when you're so popular. You know, everybody wants your help.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear like a ski mask or something.
There you go. So, is the XR running right now?
I'm assuming so. I haven't started it lately, but I mean, even then, I don't know if you heard us talking about the hoodoo voodoo of getting it running right when it messes up.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just do this weird little trick and then it runs like a champion, and it's like that's not how mechanics work at all.
No. Yeah. And I got a DR200 that I just rip around in my streets and stuff. It used to be street legal, not anymore. But
Yeah,
I practice wheelies on it, take it out in the woods and stuff. But
you
you
built a
can't.
snow bike out of that.
Yeah, kinda. But
Well, it
I got
wouldn't serve us any purpose.
yeah. Well, I got this thing. It's called a snowmobile, so we can.
Oh,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely gonna have to come up there because I've never rode a snowmobile and I've
Ah,
always wanted to.
you might be addicted. Like this, if there's snow, so I have it's a 600 triple,
Yeah,
3-cylinder, and it moves. It's fast, and it's got.
yeah.
They don't steer well. They brake pretty good if there's snow, but you'll like it.
Yeah,
You
here's
need
the
to
thing
find you
about
one of the old Harley snowmobiles.
Oh, yeah, I know it. I don't think I
here's the
could
thing
find
about
one.
snowmobiles. If you hate snow, buy a snowmobile. It is guaranteed to never snow.
So I love, so like that's the thing about it. A lot of people around here, they don't like snow. And it's rare that we get like traditional snow. And even then, we had our rare winter snowstorm a couple weeks ago. I don't know if y'all saw that. I mean, well, I guess you did since you asked about it.
Yeah,
But we had like 6 inches of snow at my place. But the problem is what comes down before we actually get snow is like sleet and freezing rain. So every bit of the snow, it gets packed onto about a half-inch thick sheet of ice, essentially.
yep,
So no matter what you do, it's like you have to find, if you want to be able to get around, you have to find the snow. You cannot drive in what's been packed unless you're going 5 miles an hour.
yeah, yeah. We get that too because we haven't had a good winter this year. We've only had probably about as much snow as you, so
I think you got another snowstorm coming next week, though.
I hope so. Well, next week I'm going. I'm taking a trip. I'm going up to Milwaukee next week. So I was supposed to go this week, but we had some seriously cold weather, and my buddy he lives alone, so he was a little worried about his boiler breaking or something while we were gone.
Yeah.
But we're leaving Tuesday morning, heading up to Chicago to my friend's house, and then we're going to go up to the museum in Milwaukee and maybe check out House of Harley up in Milwaukee. And so,
Milwaukee's another place I've never been that I've always wanted to go to.
yep.
I mean, if it's in the southeast, I've been, but outside of the southeast, I've traveled a lot over the East Coast, but not like repetitively. I've been to Chicago, I've been to New York. Uh, I've got family that's in Ohio, so whenever we go see them, we take a pit stop in uh, Pittsburgh, because between Tennessee and Ohio, Pittsburgh's on the lake. So we pit stop in Pittsburgh to go to Permane Brothers and eat.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh,
but it's like, I can get around on the East Coast because every single one of our interstate numbers like runs almost the entire, like if it's a north-south interstate, oh, you can find it somewhere almost in the Gulf and then find it way up north too. But we share a road. Did y'all know that?
which one? Route 70? No.
So Highway 11,
Really?
US Highway 11. So it comes in somewhere into New York and then keeps heading east and north, but I don't know where it finally stops at.
Well,
Um,
we have a Route 11, Jim, that goes through like Salem, New Hampshire, Hudson, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
It can't be that one.
US
well,
11
it might be.
maybe.
It might drop down from a national highway to a route.
Maybe. Huh. Interesting.
So it's the road that actually the dealership is on here.
Oh, okay.
And if I go south on it, I can go all the way to like southern Florida on it.
Yeah. Well, Route 1 like that for us. We can take Route 1 all the way down to Key West if we want.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah, but who wants to ride on Route 1?
especially you would going through Boston on Route 1. You'd be lucky just to find Route 1. You know, it goes.
That would actually be 9 hours of riding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Route
Oh,
1.
just going through Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to stay on Route 1. It's Route 128, Route 190. Yeah, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's how it was last time I was in Pittsburgh. Like we had just to date it a little bit, we were using a TomTom, and we got to some like major split where the road like splits three ways, and TomTom didn't tell us what lane we needed to be in,
Yep.
and all of a sudden we start going the wrong direction, and like we're past the split, and TomTom's like merge to the left, and I was like, too late, Tom, too late.
Too late.
And I swear right after that, I hear Tom go, lock your doors. And I was like, good idea. So,
Welcome to Queens.
yeah.
But so, have you guys gotten any of the new Harleys, new models yet?
So the ones that they just released a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So, last time I was at work, I took off work, on Saturday, just because it's the last Saturday we have before everything hits the fan for us. So I took that Saturday off, and when I left on Friday, we had a Poisonberry CVO Street Glide. We had a red Breakout, and we had a red CVO ST for the brand new ones that came out. Now we've had several of the carryovers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've seen the Mystic and the Purple Abyss, and
But yeah, that boysenberry purple. I love purple bikes, so I, I wish they made that color in the lowrider ST.
so I already stated that Harley. I think missed the mark. I think the blue and chrome Lowrider ST. That's probably my most favorite bike of the whole 2025 season.
Same.
That bike is gorgeous. I love that bike in chrome. I'm not even necessarily a chrome guy, but it just looks so good and has such a nostalgic look to it.
Yep.
But they should have done the Mystic Shift over chrome on a Lowrider ST.
Oh yeah. Yep. That would have looked good. The lowrider ST that bike from when it first came out. I was in love just because I like the FXR so much, and
Yeah.
so But
Well, I mean, the FXR is a great motorcycle. When you take a FXR and you put about 20 or $25,000 into it, you have a fantastic bike.
that's not true. Come on, my '88 FXR's been
And
doing
that's
great.
that's not true. That's just the brake work.
Yeah.
Well, what's so funny is our sales manager, he currently has an FXR, and he's like, and it's all stock, and I'm like, it's not stock, and I was like, you see that exhaust? That exhaust is not stock. Those handlebars aren't stock, and he goes, that's little bits, and I was like, how much money do you have in that thing? He goes, well, I bought it for $2,500 as a basket case, and I was like, how much money do you have in it? He's like, that's not the point, and I was like, that's 100% the point of what
That,
I'm saying.
that's the point of this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, FXRs are huge down here, and there's nothing wrong with an FXR, not at all. But like the guy that takes, so our drag rep for drag specialties
Yep.
is a huge FXR nut. He's got like 8 FXRs, and he'll tell you the same thing because he's got some that are all original bone stock, and he goes, they're fantastic motorcycles. But what you're trying to do with them and riding with everybody else, they're not. You
No.
you immediately have to do brake work and suspension work, and you got to get a better seat on that thing. And if it's fuel injected, you need to make sure that that whole thing is tuned correctly based on where you're riding it at. He goes, they're a blast, but they're not the ultimate machine at the end of the day.
Well, they can be. You take an FXR frame, you put an M8 in it, and then it becomes an ultimate machine.
So we're back to the 20 to 25,000
Yeah.
dollars in an
Yeah,
FXR.
exactly.
Yeah, but you know
When
what?
you could just go buy a lowrider ST for 25 grand and have everything. So
Yeah.
If you're buying a bike for $2,500, and when you buy that bike, your intention is I'm never going to sell this bike ever, and I don't care if I recoup my money, then it doesn't really matter what you put into it.
100%.
well,
You
I
know?
go into
Yeah.
like I go into that
Go ahead.
for every bike I buy. That's how I go into it.
Yeah, and then you
Dump a
sell
bunch of
them.
money into and then I lose a bunch of money. And then
So I've done that with the Street Glide. I've had opportunities to sell my Street Glide, and trade it in and stuff. And, I couldn't do it. I know how much money I would lose, but it has too much meaning and representation and history for me.
yep. So
Uh, that I'm like, that bike's never going anywhere.
yeah. So what is it? Let everybody know what are you riding these days?
So for the basis, I have a 2017 Street Glide Special that still just has a 107 in it.
Okay.
So
So
I've got the 14 Street Glide Special, and that's how I feel
yeah,
about mine. I mean, I may upgrade it someday, but I think that bike's going to be here forever, and it may change. Like if I buy something else, that I may change things on it or whatever. But I think that bike's here forever.
well, I've got about another 40,000 in my Street Glide
Yeah, not me.
though. I have, there is nothing outside of it being washed that has been skimped on. And the reason I say it like that is because I don't wash it. It gets washed when it gets an oil change. And I just let the dealership do the oil changes and stuff because it works out so simple for me.
Yep.
But I mean, I've got lindels all the way around on the thing. I've got I'm trying to think of the lines. It's the the ballistic vest. I can't think of what that's called right now.
Oh, the
The
Kevlar.
Kevlar.
Yeah, so I've got the Kevlar braided lines
Yep.
on it. I've got a set of 23 Road Glide special wheels on it. I've got legends on the rear. Um, I've got all S&S internals in it. Um, I've got uh, full thrashing supply T-bar set up on it.
Yep.
Um, an S&S intake. And I can't even think of the name of it's the stealth, but it's a particular one. It's all open, but it still has the teardrop style.
Oh, okay.
Um, I've got, I've got the Denali. I just did the Denali headlight and the Denali D2's custom blinker setup. That blinker setup is not something that's even offered. It was just something that we were able to figure out the right pieces to put together.
Yep.
So I've got like 15,000 lumens of light shining forward on my motorcycle when I drive down the road. I've got the custom dynamics rear tail lights, um, Sideman SDC Pro Series seat. The bike started out chrome and it's all been blacked out or powder coated teal. Um, the paint job is still stock. Obviously, the stickers on the side cover. I've got some stickers on the saddlebag and stuff. Uh, Bassani 201 Road Rage 3 exhaust on it. And then when I went to get it tuned the first time, it had a couple dead spots in it.
Yeah.
So then we put it back on the dyno and it had a full custom map put on it that took 18 hours.
Oh, jeez.
So I've got guys that have rode my bike that, they've got big engine builds and they're like, don't touch your motorcycle. Like it runs so well. Like it is, they're all the time. It's very flattering and I don't like saying it, but they're like, man, that is the fastest running 107 I've ever rode in my life. And I don't get out and try and race anybody or anything like that. It's so well tuned. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell people all the time, I go, I can come off the interstate and slow down to 35 miles an hour, forget that I'm in sixth gear and give it gas and go, and it'll go. And I'll tell some people that story and they'll be like, well, why did you forget that you were in sixth gear? And I usually look back at them and go, you don't ride a motorcycle very much, do you? That's something that just happens all the time.
You're doing that that many miles, you might forget to put your feet down at the red light.
That's another one
I've
of
done
those.
that.
Yeah.
That's another one of those. You're missing the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're missing
Yeah.
the point.
So back to
Yeah. It's so fun.
back to the suspension. What do you got? Suspension drop-ins on the front or legends on the front?
So right now the suspension on the front is stock. Well, I say stock. It's got a heavier weight oil in the front.
Okay.
It's the only thing that's been done to the front right now.
You got some.
The rear right now has Legend Revo A's on the rear.
All right. So you got update.
So I've been very fortunate enough that I've worked my way into parts a lot of times. All the powder coating and everything that's on my motorcycle that's teal, um, I paid a lot less than what I should have for all of those parts. Um, but they needed to get rid of them and I was willing to buy them. So it was kind of one of the things.
You're a marketing guy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect anything less.
You gotta
Well,
sell,
I
you
think
gotta
we
sell
all,
yourself.
well, everybody knows, everybody that's been riding long enough, they know that guy that it's like, oh, I have a perfect running FXR that I bought for $3,000. It's like, where did you get a perfect running FXR for $3,000? Well, right place, right time, and had the money in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I've not always been that guy, but here lately it's kind of worked out that way for me. That's how the whole Denali setup started. Denali came out with a headlight that was not anything on the market. And I don't know if you know, they're based out of Rhode Island.
Oh, really?
Um,
I don't even think I've ever heard of them.
I'll
yeah,
have to look
Denali
them up.
Electronics.
That's my backyard. I gotta look them up.
Denali Electronics. So they're based out of Rhode Island. All their manufacturing and stuff happens in Washington. Um, but they're a small outfit. They're part of Twisted Distributing
Okay.
is the parent company that owns them. But they came out with this headlight to compete against the Baja Designs and the Shark Demon and stuff like that. And our Denali rep, we were doing some stuff with him with the Pan America, and he was like, "Man, I really want to display this headlight." Um, and the company, he was coming down for an event we were doing. He said, basically where the company's at now is if we can display this headlight, then we're in. If we can't, then I have to try and sell them on letting me come down and spend the money to do this event. So I was like, well, what does this headlight fit? And they go, oh, well, it fits, like '09 through, 23 street glides and road glides. And I was like, well, I've got a 17. That'd fit mine. He goes, you want to put it on yours? And I go, I'll call you back. So I just went to the boss and I was like, here's the thing. I mean, they want to do it, but they got to have that headlight. I was like, he'll send me a headlight. I can put it on my motorcycle. All I got to do is mention him a couple times on the podcast and we'll put it on there. So he sent me the headlight. He sent me a set of the D2 blinkers because I told him if you look at like Baja Designs, where they've got the headlight, they have their little S1 blinkers also that they use. And I was like, if you're going to do this headlight, you got to get into this blinker game too. And you've already got a light that can be used. It just, you got to figure out how to do it.
Yep.
So we found a kit that we were able to make their light to, and it replaces my blinkers on the front. Now they're in the factory blinker placement. Um, but it's their D2 spotlight with a flood lens on it, so it spreads it out instead of just beaming out straight. So he sent me those. He sent me the smart can system to be able to lock it all in and control everything. So it's been really really neat. You know, we the very first time we talked about it in the podcast, one of my good buddies was on with us, and he made a comment about them because they don't officially have a tagline. And I clipped it and sent it to him, and he's like, "I'm sending that to my marketing people right now because that's hilarious."
Well,
So
bright lights on Harley Davidson has really never been my thing. I have older bikes. My newest bike is a 2007, the Road Glide.
yeah,
So I got a Moons MC on that thing. I think that is extremely bright. But my other bikes, I could, I can't see good at night. So
well, you got to get some lights. That's the biggest thing for it. I mean, where we're at, I know we talked about the time zone thing. Where we're at, I'm a little more fortunate than y'all are, because with us being as far west as we are on the Eastern time zone, we have light later than y'all.
yeah,
So where I still have daylight in the wintertime at 5 o'clock, y'all might not. So that's one of the big things. I mean, for us during the worst of it, it is like 5:30 before it's pitch black outside here.
yeah. Well, it's winter time and it gets dark about 5 o'clock right now. It's getting lighter every day, but in the
Oh, right
shortest,
now it's 7:47 and it's dark outside, but probably when we started this, there was probably still light coming in through the window at 7 o'clock.
Oh wow.
yeah, our shortest day it gets dark at like 4:25 or something crazy. But that's
Yeah, we
when
never get that close.
no, that's winter time and we're not riding, so
But we are literally like on the time zone line. I mean, the city limits, there's some spots where the city limit stops at the county line, and when you cross that line, you're in central time zone.
yeah. Well, what were you guys calling them? The
The slow time?
slow time. Yeah, that's what it was. The slow time and fast time.
Yeah.
Michigan is like that. So Michigan is Eastern time zone, but it's so far west that when it's dark here at like 4:30, they're an hour and a half, 2 hours behind us before they lose light.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like Daytona. Like they're on Eastern time, and when I'm down there, it stays light late compared to at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at us, if I drove straight to the coast, from where we're at, I'm like 8.5 hours to the coast,
Oh, really?
uh, going east.
East.
Uh, and y'all are further east than where that coastline is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the north. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of
Well, you're
like
further east. If you look on a map, you're going to be further east.
yeah,
Oh,
because
You
you
yeah.
stick out past the coast of North Carolina.
Yeah,
you
you're
don't
right. You're
really
right.
think about it. You almost think about it as a straight line, but it's really not. I mean, the country really does go like up in Maine is northeast, and the whole rest of the country starts to go gradually southwest until Florida where it
Yeah.
kind of kicks out a little bit. But
Yeah. Well, it's just like, so San Diego, uh, the, the parallel that San Diego is on is just south of us. Like, I mean, like 20 miles south of us. That's it.
Huh?
So in theory, we should have that same weather.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
theory, in
In
theory,
theory. But you can see bridges you were saying that are in Central Time, right? From
Yeah.
yeah.
If I go outside right now, so like when I'm at work, there's a mountain that we can see on
Yep.
the other side of town. That mountain is in Central Time.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. We have to, when we're riding, we have to watch it, uh, because our phones and our watches and everything always want to change to Central Time, but they take forever to change back to Eastern Time. So like one of the spots that we like to go ride, we talked about it on ours. It's called Suck Creek Road.
Yep.
And it's literally like when you start the road, you're in the city. And the good riding is 2 miles away from where the city line stops. And when you get to the top of the mountain there, only about 5 miles away, you're in Eastern time or in Central time zone. And as soon as you cross it, everything will change. You might turn around, come right back, and you'll go to the restaurant and you'll be sitting there and it's like, oh man, it's just 2 o'clock. It's like, no, it's 3 o'clock. Our
Yeah,
phones have not changed back yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the only good thing about when I drive out to Chicago next week. I'll gain an hour, but then coming home I'll lose an hour. So
Yeah. We have some employees that we make jokes about it takes them 2 hours to get to work and then
yeah,
only an hour to get home. So,
yeah, yeah. Ugh.
That's wild.
So let's talk about your podcast. So you got how long have you been doing the podcast? You guys been around for a while, I think.
so I was trying to figure that out the other day. Because someone asked me, they were like, what, like year wise, how long have you been around? So I'll say this, our newest episode comes out on Monday, the 27th, and that'll be episode 208, and we do an episode every Monday.
Oh, nice.
So whatever that, I mean, I guess that's a little over 4 years, or
Yeah.
right at
I
four
think
years.
I think Apple says 2021 for what that's worth.
Yeah,
All right. So
that's
yeah,
that's
about
probably right.
When you started it, when you started your podcast, were you familiar with like the software and the different things, or did you have to kind of figure it out on the fly?
I still ain't figured it out yet. So we use we talked to me and Brian talked a little bit about this. I use a hosting service called Buzzsprout.
Yep, I checked it out.
So with Buzzsprout, I don't think that they have recording software. I think you have to record and load. Um, but what's nice is they have some features that I don't have to worry about. So my pre-roll and post-roll of the episodes is pre-recorded. I put it in on its own and it loads, auto loads to everything. So, if I wanted to change that, like if I said, wanted to put something in there saying, hey, we're going to Sturgis, we're going to be doing a meet and greet, come meet us type deal, I could put that on there and it doesn't matter what episode you listen to, it's going to be there. So,
Oh, that's nice.
I haven't quite figured out. I mean, I say I haven't figured it out because of work. I have figured out how to do it. I just don't like doing it. But editing, whether it's audio or video editing, so because of that, we just don't edit
yeah,
because I don't like doing it. I'm like, we'll load it, we'll call it a day, we'll see what it is. But I have people that send us messages and they're like, that we love that you don't edit it, that it's so raw. It is those conversations like you can tell sometimes with the things that we're saying where I might be holding back because being a dealership employee, I might be privileged to information that I can't talk about at that moment, or something's going on in our personal world, and it's like, oh, it just clicked with me, or it just clicked with Daniel, and we want to tell each other, but we're like, let's wait until after this episode
yeah,
before we say this because the rest of the world does not need to hear all this drama. Because that's what it is. I mean, literally, it's conversation. There'll be something where we might be out, and Daniel will be like, "Oh, did you see this?" And I'll be like, "No, not yet, but don't talk to me about it. Save it."
yeah,
I'm like, just make a middle note, save that, and we can talk about it at that time. And that's why, if you listen to it, it's so organic. It's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, did you remember? Look this up real quick,"
yeah,
type deal. But I, I feel privileged with the knowledge that I do have, the knowledge basis that I do have about the motorcycle community, the motorcycle manufacturing world, and the variety of motorcycles that allows us to be able to create that content and have those conversations on those types of stuff. But, knowing anything about podcasts, no. If you go and listen to episodes, the first 10 episodes, you can tell the dynamic format of what the first 10 episodes were is completely different after you get to episode 11. We just kind of hit a point where we're like, we didn't care anymore
yeah,
about trying to make it sound very professional and just went because literally in super early episodes, we tried to be quiet. We had mics and we were running into a system and straight onto a laptop and had on headphones and trying to be very professional and all that other stuff. And it's funny because it was sometime around episode 4. I had several episodes recorded, um, and my laptop like just crashed during the middle of the night, and I lost everything. And there was such like a harassment from people at the shop about that had been on episodes. So I'm like, well, I need you to come back. And they're like, no, I did episodes. You just threw it away. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it's still funny now because, and I'm sure y'all experienced this, you'll be talking to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, so I have a podcast. And in their mind, they're like, oh yeah, you got a podcast. And that's it.
Yeah,
Not like, oh, people actually listen to the podcast and send us messages and care what we have to say. It still blows my mind sometimes that people do. But,
oh, for sure.
I get those messages. Last week I forgot to load the episode, so I had the episode come out on Monday, and I wake up and it's like 8:45 because I'm off on Mondays. I wake up and I'm like, I forgot to load the episode. So immediately I'm like working on my phone to get the episode posted up. In the middle of all that, I get a message from Chris
Yeah,
telling me, "Hey, you hadn't loaded the episode. I hope everything's okay." Because it's like for him and so many other people, it's Monday morning routine.
yeah.
Headed to
Well,
work. Let's listen to the podcast.
yeah, especially because Chris and I used to work together. We were truck drivers, and
Yeah.
we'd listen to that. That was our thing. Listen to podcasts while we're working. So it was. If they didn't come out on that Monday, we'd be like, "What the heck? We got nothing to listen to." So
Well, and that's honestly, that's how I got into podcasting. Probably similar situation for you because I was already listening to a lot of podcasts
yep,
and it got me interested in that platform.
sure.
Now we still haven't branched out into doing any video, um, just because what I tell everybody is we're in the South, and we have something in the South that a lot of the other states don't have, and that's more freedom to do certain things. So YouTube or something might kind of restrict some of the things that we do. So or might be seen in video. Uh, so we have shied away from doing that, but we're working on getting a better system where we can do that. We've started working on a better setup to be able to actually record podcasts because it's become so easy now. Like, if you look at the mic that you have, Brian, 5 years ago that mic was probably three times as much as what you can buy it for now.
Oh, for sure.
Technology change and stuff like that, it's become so much simpler for people to be able to do this type of stuff.
Yeah,
And it's been very nice. And as much as COVID was a thing or wasn't a thing, whatever people choose to say about that, um, it did usher in a lot of technological advances for home use and business use and stuff like that. Camera quality, if you look, it was going good but it just jumped when COVID happened because, you know, the camera that was on your home laptop was not the same quality as what a camera on your home laptop is now. Uh, you know, Before COVID, it was GoPro. If you were doing an action thing, GoPro is what everybody used.
yep,
And now there's 50 million action cameras that are all pretty decent quality.
Yeah.
So it that type of stuff ushered in the ability for people to be able to do this and make life easier for them to do this and make it cheaper.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's also still expensive. We have no sponsors or anything like that. So everything we do on our podcast is out of our own pocket. So it's like I tell people, I'm like, you know, we're working on getting a studio space together and getting microphones and headphones and all that stuff. But at the same time, I'm going to Sturgis. That's money.
yeah.
I,
Well,
I'm going to the races. That's money. There's stuff I want to do to my motorcycle. That's money.
that
So
that's very similar to Jim and I. So like we were talking like let's just do a podcast because I feel like I want it to feel like we're in the garage talking about bikes. It's not going to be crazy edited. It's just going to be you and me sitting down. We're not going to have studios. We're just going to talk shit. We're going to talk about bikes. We're going to have people on. We're
yeah,
going to talk shit to them. And we don't have any sponsors either. We buy all our own stuff, and
yeah,
whatever. We're just like you said. People message us saying they like it raw. It's just we don't edit anything. It's all raw,
yeah,
and whatever comes out of my mouth is coming out. And we just started going on YouTube too, and I feel like that's a big
yeah.
thing. That's like another platform for people to listen. So
Yeah, so we want to do YouTube, but it's been looking at what YouTube has to offer or the availability of YouTube. So YouTube does have a YouTube podcast system, but it's not the same system as their video system, so it doesn't work the same way as their video system. Now I've got people that are in the know and stuff with YouTube themselves, and there has been a conversations about with their podcast system when stuff is loaded in on that, you can find it on regular YouTube, but instead of the video, it's just going to show whatever image file you load for that episode or
Uh,
that podcast or whatever.
yep.
And I wish they would link that system, but it's kind of like when people go, oh, well, YouTube can do video, but they can't do that other stuff. Well, YouTube is Google. Like, can't tell me that they can't do that other stuff
Yeah,
because
I think they can figure
Google
it out.
Podcast is one of the largest platforms.
Yep. Yeah,
So
for sure.
that was like the thing that was, we were trying to find our way through it, and I'm using Riverside, and
Right.
real simple. Every once in a blue moon, well, like I'll mark something, and I'll, because we had like a little, like a lag or something like that, or I'll just kind of like suck up the dead space or whatever. It's a couple clicks here and
Yeah.
there, but we do this for fun. We want it to be as easy as possible. We don't want this to be like another job for us. It's something that we really
Yeah.
enjoy. Um, Brian takes the file that I send him and uploads it like right to YouTube. The regular YouTube, it's there. You can go on there and watch it, and
Yeah.
it's almost doubled our listens every
For
week.
sure. Yeah, it's made a big
Yeah.
impact.
I need to do something. We've got a pretty big listening platform. Facebook helped us with that a little bit because at one point in time, Facebook used to have a podcast player system that was built into Facebook. So whenever you would go to something, so our podcast would auto load to the dealership's Facebook page on Mondays. And whenever you would be on Facebook and you would be on the dealership page and you would come to that tab, you didn't even have to click on anything. It would just start auto playing.
Yeah.
And if you kept scrolling, it would continue to autoplay
In the
until
background.
you forcibly stopped it or played something else. And it actually got us more listeners. I'm sure there were some people that were like, nope, and shut it off, but it was producing listens. Because the nice thing is I was getting that data. I was able to go, this is what the numbers we're getting off of Facebook. This is also the time listen, how much people have physically listened to it.
Yep.
And fortunately for me, I have the backside of the Facebook page for the dealership. So I was able to see
And
and compare those numbers to each other. And it helped us grow. And then Facebook just decided they didn't want to do that anymore and just went and shut it down. And it's like, okay, thanks for that. But
yeah.
we've grown. I still, I reach out all the time to people and I ask it on the podcast, how did you hear about us? Tell us how you heard about us. And the only answer that I've ever gotten is people that send me messages on a regular basis, and they'll be like, "Oh, I just got on Spotify or Apple or whatever and was looking for motorcycle podcasts, and y'all popped up."
Yep. That's how I
Uh,
do.
but it's like I've got listeners all over the world, and how did you hear about us? Because I guarantee you, your Spotify or your Apple's not throwing me in your algorithm. If it is, then I'm doing something right.
Yeah. So, all right. Two questions about your podcast. First, how'd you meet Daniel? And what is up with this sponsorship of the Flat Track Hooligan Rider?
So, okay, so we'll start with the second question first. So it's actually not flat track.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's just hooligan?
So are you familiar with King of the Baggers?
Sorta. I mean, it's not my thing, but I know about it.
I don't know why it's not your thing. I feel like if you watched one race, it would become your thing. I promise you. Even as not a bagger guy, you would love it.
I'm a bagger guy, but more of a stunt guy. I'm more of a wannabe stunt rider.
So let me say this. The first time I'd heard about the bagger racing, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then we went down to Road Atlanta and we were there for one of the races. This was 3 years ago. And they were having the super stock class was going around on the backside. And these are guys riding, you know, BMW S1000s and GSXR 1000s and CBRs and all this other stuff. And they were hitting 191 on the back stretch in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's like, everybody's like, holy crap. And right after that race, the baggers come through and Kyle Wyman does 182 on the backstretch on a road glide.
Yep.
And I just saw people's like minds explode. And I was like, this is it. This is what my existence is now. So, because I already loved seeing those faces getting, going through a turn and people going, how are you sending a bike that fast through that corner? And I'm like, because the bike will do it. Just learn how to ride it.
Yep.
Um, so that was going on. And since you like the stunt stuff, Roland Sands has always been really big into flat track racing and that type of stuff. Well, they started a series because that's where the hooligan name comes from.
Yep.
Because the Super Hooligan series is the Roland Sands Super Hooligan race series. Uh, and they started it and they get out there with FTRs, the Indian FTR, the Harley Davidson Pan America, the KTM Duke, and stuff like that. And they race on these same tracks. They do the road series. They only do like 6 or 7 of them
Yep.
throughout their season, but it's just another race series where these guys are on those bikes and they're running 160, 170, 180 miles an hour on these back stretches and around the tracks and everything and having a blast. And it has grown. The first year that they did it, it was more of an exhibition year, just like the baggers were. And it's just become so popular. And even in the race crowd, it's become so popular. Guys that aren't Harley guys that are diehard sport bike guys are there watching these bagger races and they're like, yeah, and they're cheering it on because it's just something you don't see. It's insane.
Yeah.
So that's what the Super Hooligan Race Series is they're racing on the street. It's just basically naked V-twin bikes,
Yeah.
but they have certain rules they have to follow. Um, so Dylan Wall, the guy that we sponsor, he's number 519 Super Hooligan Rider. His wife is from Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know his wife. And a couple years ago, his wife came into the dealership to get a T-shirt. She was in town seeing family, and she was getting a T-shirt and stuff like that. And got home, and next thing you know, Dylan's tagging us in a post on Instagram where he's got on one of our shirts, just working on the bike and stuff in the garage. And that's how that relationship was built. Just that tagging back and forth, or they'd post something and I would share it because I personally thought it was cool. Outside of the fact that the Harley Davidson Motor Company is pushing this racing too,
Yep.
so it was kind of a plus. So I personally thought it was cool, but I was also doing what the market intended for too. So it wasn't like I was trying to take personal space. Um, but like so the relationship developed, and then at Christmas they were going to be coming to Chattanooga to spend time with her family. And he goes, "Hey, do you want us to come by the dealership one day and like sign autographs?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome."
Yep.
So they came and they did that, and they offered a sponsorship to the dealership at that time because he was down a sponsor. And it was like the price that he gave, I was like, something must be wrong. I was like, is that per race? And he's like, no, that's for the season. I was like, holy crap. So I went to my boss about it, because he races a Pan America and my boss is a huge Pan America guy. And he was like, I would like this, but we can't this year. It's not the right time and stuff. And I was like, okay. So, um, they go about their way. We still talk and tag and all this other stuff. And then they asked me again, hey, do you want us to come by the dealership? We're going to be in town at Christmas. And I was like, that would be awesome. So they come by the dealership, and they had sent a message to me about they had another sponsorship available, but it was a different sponsor package. And I was like, well, give me the information on that. So they got me the information on it. I presented it to the dealership. Um, and he was like, no, not right now, because there's some stuff going on in the world of Pan America, as some people might know or you might see online and stuff. So he's like, we're going to kind of, we're still doing Pan America stuff, but we're going to kind of change the way that we're doing that a little bit. And I was like, okay, not a problem. And I talked to Daniel and was like, hey, this is an opportunity and this is what it's going to cost us. And he goes, how do we do this? And I go, that was what I was thinking. So I told him, I was like, listen, here's the thing about it. We want to do this, but it's the podcast. We want to do this as the podcast. This is Daniel and I. This is out of our pocket, and we want to do this. And they're like, absolutely. And it's just, what we paid for was a helmet sponsorship.
Yep.
Uh, and I'll just tell you, we only paid $600 for a full helmet sponsorship for an entire season.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, Daniel, $300 a piece. It's
Yeah.
like, where do we sign up at? So, so we did it, but then they put us on their race, put our logo on their race suit. They put our logo on the belly pan of the bike. We're getting him a hat, uh, so he can wear the hat. So like when he does the big stadium photos and they show him on the big screen and he's standing there in his leathers with his arms crossed,
Yeah.
he's gonna have on the podcast hat and stuff. And it's like, oh, this is, we definitely got our money out of it.
Yep.
But that relationship, he'll tell you. In the interview that I had with him, he says it. He's not a winning rider. He loves to do it. It's so fun for him.
Yep.
He's not a podium guy, but he wants to be a good steward of the sport and get more people involved. And we're very much, if you go back and listen to all 208 of our episodes, you can tell that that's what we're about. We have so many episodes where we talk about, when you see a bike on the side of the road, pull over, ask them if they need help, go on a toy run, get involved in a community activity with your motorcycle, and be good stewards of the motorcycle community. Don't go out and be a piece of shit.
Yep. Yep.
So sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on y'all's podcast, but
Yeah, it's fucking unbelievable you'd say that.
some bullshit. So now, Daniel. So some people will hear an episode and not know who we're talking about because Daniel and I will talk about No Show Jones.
Yep.
Uh, so No Show Jones is Lewis or Trey or Tay Tay, as I might refer to him sometimes on the podcast. And that's where the podcast starts with. If you go to the first 25 episodes, he's on every episode. It's me and him, and we're chit chatting, and we're good buddies. We were good buddies then, and we're still good buddies today. He had a lot of stuff going on in life and needed to bow out, and go for it. It's life changing stuff happens. But we had a big party downtown. Used to be a big bike night series, and Daniel, and his wife were there. Well, Lewis is really big into vintage Japanese motorcycles. Um, I think he's in the closet a little bit, and that's why. So,
Not
so
so
we
much if he
met.
makes it public.
Yeah. So he met Daniel because Daniel is into vintage Japanese motorcycles, and I know Daniel's in the closet because he doesn't tell everybody. Uh,
Is there a
so
website for that?
there's a Facebook page for it, Chattanooga Vintage Motorcycles. Uh, so But like, so they met and were talking about their Kawasaki's. They were having whatever they call that. They sounded like a bunch of teenage girls talking about these Kawasaki motorcycles, and I didn't understand it. But I was like, I know the bikes. And they were like, you're not excited about it? And I was like, no, man. That was when I was a kid. Everybody had a vintage Kawasaki or Honda in their garage that didn't run.
Yeah.
Like that was what everybody had. So, but they get talking, and he introduces Daniel to me, and over the course of a month or so, we really get to know each other. And he had told Lewis had told Daniel about the podcast, and Daniel had went back and listened to some episodes. Well, then I was like, "Hey, do you want to be on an episode of the podcast?" And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we went over there and we had a big episode, and it's episode either 25 or 26 is the first episode that Daniel's on. Um, and then I was like, anytime you want to do this, come on. And he's like, dude, I want to be on it all the time. And I was like, okay, cool. And we went about two or three episodes, and then Lewis was like, I
See.
got stuff I got to do. I'm out.
Yeah.
So then it's been me and Daniel stuck together ever since. Oh,
Oh, hold
don't
on.
do that.
Back.
We're not going to edit that out.
Nope.
Well, I've got my cell phone on like the fold out TV tray,
Oh yeah.
leaning up against my old Xbox.
Yeah. Well, if you can see, I'm on a ping pong table, and it's got this. My iPad's on this janky little triangle thing, and it just fell over.
Well, I moved seats. I'm sitting in a different seat than where I normally would sit at in my living room. Uh, just because there's my we're motorcycle riders. So if you can't see like on top of the
Yeah, the
cabinet,
helmets.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
and like the bar is full of motorcycle helmets and riding jackets and gloves and sunglasses.
Nice.
So that's why I was like, let's do something a little bit nicer looking of a space. Got my little flag in the background and everything.
Yeah. Because
So
this is going to be on YouTube, so everybody's going to see.
that's okay. But like, so yeah, so Daniel came in and has been part of it ever since. And, you know, we've had, you know, just like everybody has, you have those times where he's like, he's sick or something happens. I think since he's been around, there's been one episode, that he wasn't going to be able to be on and I wasn't able to find a guest. So it's like me and Muffin in the car for like 7 minutes talking about the fact that we don't have any friends to do our podcast with us. So, but now, like, we've got it so, like, worked out. It's so seamless. You know, when it first started, um, his wife, Stephanie, you know, she's fantastic, but she was like, we want to do stuff this weekend. And I was like, that's fine. You know, that's no skin off my back. And I told Daniel at that point in time, I was like, dude, we can get together. Understand if I'm off, we can get together at any point in time. So, you know, we've recorded them at 7 o'clock in the morning before because that was the only time that we were going to be able to get together and record.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens, unfortunately, sometimes. But it's, as time has gone on, you know, Muffin has learned to just kind of, hey, we're going to record. Okay, let's go. And Daniel's wife, she'll be like, well, I'm going out with friends, or I'm going to sit upstairs and watch TV, and we can every once in a while get her on the show. But like she rides too. She acts like, why do y'all want to talk about motorcycles? And I'm like, girl, do you realize like you get on your bike, like you want to go to Sturgis, but you don't want to ride to Sturgis. But then the other day you're like, well, I might just have to ride to Sturgis. Like, how many girls say that? And you're like, I don't want to get on the podcast. But like, if you ever met her, she doesn't seem like that, like the motorcycle type girl.
Yeah.
But she'll jump on her bike and just go. It's
Nice.
not a big deal to her.
So you guys have a set day you record now, or you guys is it still scattered? Just whenever
It's still scattered. Yeah.
you guys
Sometimes
record.
it's been through the week. Sometimes it's like this weekend we recorded, Saturday afternoon. Typically we'll record on like Sunday afternoon,
Yep.
like around lunchtime. So.
You record at the dealership, or
Every once in a while. Typically, we record in Daniel's home office.
oh, okay, nice.
So, and that's why I was saying we haven't really went to YouTube yet because of the visual backgrounds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Jim. Well, I don't think we've ever done a podcast where we're in the same room, have we, Jim?
Yeah, well, we did it at Edwin's garage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We took the podcast on the road. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so the system that we're working on, the little studio system that we're working on, is going to be semi-mobile. And when I say semi-mobile, it can move. It's not going to be locked down to a table or anything like that for a studio space.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as simple as what we have now. But the nice thing is the system that we're getting is going to be able to, handle phone calls directly in. So,
Ooh.
I'll be able to plug in my phone and all the audio that I speak into the microphone will go through the system, out the cable and into the phone. So you'll hear it like I'm talking to you. And all of your audio that you speak on your phone will come through the system and into a microphone input.
Yeah.
So it will sound like you're in studio with us based on the quality of your phone.
Yeah. Does this mean Chris is going to be on every episode now? He'll be-
Uh, I still don't have Chris's number, so it's okay.
oh shit.
I've got your number. I don't have Chris's. We communicated through Instagram Messenger,
Yeah.
and that I tell you what, they are funny, but that boy sends me 20 videos a day sometimes.
he's a bored truck driver, so he's got time on his.
I
I
live on social media for work, and I don't send people videos that much.
Oh, I have
Brian's
this
buddy
one
Todd
buddy.
is like that.
Oh no, RJ. This kid RJ on Instagram, he sends me 35, 40. I don't even read them anymore. I just instantly delete them. Like I don't even.
Yeah.
I can't even open them. I'm so sick
Sorry,
of looking.
RJ.
Yeah. So RJ, stop sending me text messages, will you, buddy? Jeez.
Well, so Lewis also sends me a lot of stuff. And for him, it's either funny dirt bike fails because he's kind of parked his vintage bikes and found a love of dirt bikes again. So that his whole world revolves around dirt bikes now.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but like he sends me a lot of funny dirt bike fails and then political videos.
So one
Like,
screen to the next.
yeah, he is he's not like a super political person, but he is the kind of person to drive down the road and yell at somebody because they're holding the wrong sign.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, you got anything else for Marcus, or are we at our time limit, Jim? What?
I think we're at our time. I think we're like an hour and a half. We're good.
Really? All right. We got
That's a
some good
solid
info out of
episode.
Marcus. Yep. So, Marcus, where are they're gonna find you? And Chris tells me,
Uh,
Chris says your Instagram
Anywhere.
sucks, so you better get on that.
My personal Instagram probably absolutely 100% sucks. I get on my personal Instagram to usually see what messages that either Chris sends me, my buddy Keith sends me, or what Daniel sends me. That's about the only time I'm on my personal Instagram. Every bit of my work goes into the dealership Instagram.
Yep.
And I know that. I would personally say that because I see that. I don't. I think the last thing I posted was our Christmas photo. It was like "Merry Christmas," and that was it. And I haven't posted anything since. So 100%, my personal Instagram probably absolutely does suck.
All right.
But you can find us anywhere. You
Hey,
can tell Alexa to do stuff. I'm trying to stay quiet so she doesn't hear me. But you can tell Alexa to do stuff. You can anywhere that you find podcasts, with the exception of YouTube.
all right. So you heard it. Every platform for podcasts, go check out the Daily Biker podcast. It's a good podcast. I mean, I like it. I've been listening to it for a while. I enjoy it. I like how Daniel's not a Harley guy, but
He is not.
if he came across a 2011 Road King police bike, he might buy one.
So yeah, that 2010, 2011, even into 2012, I tell him realistically, it's 2009 to 2016. If he
Yeah,
finds that range, police bike, Road King, that's still in police spec,
that's his
like
thing.
one that's been customized. No, he still wants like that police spec, and I think it's just this boyhood fantasy he has or something with the police spec. I mean, I don't know if I think I've mentioned it once or twice, but like, Lewis has a Kawasaki police bike that's like the Chips bikes.
Oh yeah, the KZ.
So, I think, I don't know.
That's funny. No. All right, Jim. Where they gonna find us?
They are going to find us on Instagram at The Ride Life Brian, The Ride Life Jim, The Ride Life Podcast, and on YouTube at The Ride Life Podcast.
Right on. Hey, Marcus, we really appreciate you coming on, man. I glad I could have you on, and it was good. I learned some inside stuff.
Well, look, if y'all are ever getting into a conversation where you need some technical aspect or something about something that's going on, just shoot me a message. I'll be more than glad to break it down. And even if it's something that I don't really even know what's going on, it doesn't take me but a few minutes to read and learn. I mean, the KTM stuff is developing every single day, but we're still talking about that on every single episode.
Yep, you are.
Yep.
So cool.
All
Good
right.
to know.
We'll
Thank you,
see you
Marcus.
Yeah,
guys
man.
next Tuesday.
Yes. So